Hey, Facebook live stream viewers, we're glad to have you with us today. We're talking about the economics of women with Cheri Blair in just a little bit. So welcome to Change It Up Radio. Remember, guys, you're backstage with us, so you're not going to see some kind of perfectly produced video here. You're seeing what it's like to be backstage in the makings of a radio show. So in just a couple of minutes, we'll be actually starting that show. But I just wanted to welcome you and give you a heads up about what we're talking about today, because even today, with all of the progress women have made, they are still making 80 cents to every dollar that men make. And for women of color, that goes way lower. So Cheri's going to be talking to us in a little bit about what is going on and what can we do to create some change. So please stay around for Cheri Blair. All right, so we're just about to start this show. Okay, thank you, Todd. Here we go. Oh, you know what? Before I do every show, I always set an intention, and I forgot to do that before we started live streaming with y'all. So if you wouldn't mind sharing this with me, I would like to take a moment, because you know I work with energy, and intention is the way, setting an intention is the way that we tell the energy how we'd like it to turn out. I highly recommend setting intentions for everything you do, and especially for your day before you begin it. So I set the intention for this show that we bring some really powerful and important information to our listeners, that we may even change lives with what we talk about here today. I set the intention that we come together in a spirit of joy and service and just bringing important information to our listeners. And we also set the intention that our minds will be clear and sharp, and our words will flow easily for the highest good of all. Thank you. Okay. Now I feel a little more ready to start my show. I only once have forgotten to set an intention before a show, and I could really feel the difference when we were doing it. So I can't recommend that highly enough. I do it before every presentation I do. I do it before an important conversation. It's just a powerful tool. All right, thanks for being with us, and we're ready to roll. Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. Once again, thank you for joining me. I'm so delighted to have you here. We're talking today about the economics of women and what is going on even today in 2019. Women are making 80 cents to every dollar that men make. And for women of color, it's way lower. We're going to be joined a little later by Cheri Blair, who is our favorite financial advisor and a sponsor of this show. And she will be enlightening us about what is actually going on and what can we do to create change so that situation improves. All right, so that'll be just a little later in the show. Right now, I want to just welcome you. I'm so glad to have you here at Change It Up Radio. I'm Paula Shaw. I am a life transitions therapist, so my work primarily deals with people who are going through change. And that's pretty much all of us, isn't it? Because something is changing almost every day in our lives. And that's a good thing, because change creates growth and creates new experiences, so we don't just get bored. On the other hand, though, we really hate the discomfort of the unfamiliar. So people can have real problems with change. It can cause anger. It can cause fear. It can cause depression. It can cause anxiety, because when you aren't familiar with your surroundings or even the people around you, that can create a lot of anxiety for people. So I work with those kinds of issues in my private practice. And what I do that's a little different from a lot of therapists is that I use mind-body tools. I use the tools and methods from energy psychology, like meridian tapping. I use neuroscience tools like yawning, which is a great way to become neutral about something that was triggering you, just simply yawning. Isn't that cool? I love mind-body tools because they, for the most part, they bypass the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is only 5% of our mind functioning. The subconscious is 95% of our mind functioning. And that's really, in my opinion, where most of the problems live. Because we are holding limiting beliefs we don't even know we're holding. You know, I was using the example the other day of a woman who came to see me, and I said, what isn't working in your life? What can I help you with? And she said, I seem to be a magnet for every narcissistic jerk guy out there. And I said, oh. And after she talked a little bit, I said, I wonder if you're holding a limiting belief that you don't deserve to be treated well by a man, or to be treated respectfully by a man, or be cherished by a man. And she said, oh, that's ridiculous. Of course I do. And I said, yeah, your conscious mind may believe that. But if 95% of your mind is not believing it, it's going to attract the narcissistic jerk who will confirm that that belief is correct. So sure enough, we used a tool called muscle testing, and which is one of the ways we can find out what actually is lurking in the subconscious mind. And we found out that she was holding a belief similar to that. And so what we then did was we used some processes from the field of energy psychology to neutralize that belief, because everything is just frequencies of energy, right? So if we can flatline that energy instead of having it have life to the frequency, then it's neutralized and you're no longer resonating with it or attracting from it. Because remember, when we're holding certain frequencies, it's a law of electromagnetic energy that we're going to attract an energetic match to that frequency. So that's one of the ways that I work with clients in my private practice, to help them to shift or neutralize those problematic beliefs or behaviors or patterns that are not working for them. So whether those might be addiction or paranoia or depression or weight gain, whatever it might be, usually at the base of it, what's lurking in there is a problematic limiting belief or a trauma that was set in place by something that you experienced early in life. So if any of you who are listening today, if that kind of work sounds like something you might really like to do that might help you shift some patterns that have been problematic for a while, then you can reach me at paulashaw.com, or you can call me at 626-864-0756. All righty. So in addition to being a life transitions therapist, I'm also an author and a speaker. And one of the things I would love to talk about a little bit this morning is this latest book of mine. You know, I wrote a grief book a little while back called Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And prior to that, a book about the energy centers that we call the chakras. And but this little book just came out in the fall, and I'm in love with this little book. And I have to say, it's getting great reviews on Amazon, and most people who have read it really like it. First of all, it's small, so you can pretty much count on being able to read it in one sitting. Second of all, I wanted to not create the Magna Carta. It's been done. I wanted to create a simple book with a very straightforward message that people would keep with them, that women would keep in their purses, that men would have in their glove box or their briefcase, so that they could refer to it when life brought them circumstances where difficult conversations were necessary. And that is exactly what seems to have happened with this book. And it makes me so happy. People are always saying to me, oh, I keep mine in my purse. One of the things people like most is the chapters where I actually give you lists of things that are helpful to say, lists of things that are not helpful to say, and also lists of things that are good for you to be able to respond with if you're the person who's hurting and people are saying things to you that are either making you feel defective or angry or defensive, because we all know everybody wants to be helpful. But sometimes in our naivete or our ignorance, we don't know the right things to say. And so we say things we've heard before that may or may not be helpful at all. Like, don't cry, tears won't change anything. Yes, I have clients who've actually been told that. Or, well, God must have needed him more than you did. These kinds of statements they may be intellectually true, but they are intellectual statements. And when a person is hurting, they don't need their head worked with. They need their heart soothed. So good things to say to someone who's hurting are responses that come from the heart. Responses that are the kind of thing one human would say to another human. Not a guru, not a teacher, not somebody with a perfect answer speaking to them, but just another equal who understands what it feels like when you're hurting. So if any of you are looking at those kinds of tricky conversations right now, then just remember a couple of basic things. Have the right intention. We've talked about how intention helps us to send the energy in the direction we'd like it to go. We want to be present. It's so important to be present. Really important to have the right mindset, which is just to listen and comfort and soothe and not correct or teach or judge. It's also the most critical piece in those 5 steps is listening. Listen with the intent to really hear what the person's saying, not listening with the intent of trying to figure out what you're going to say back. Because when you're truly listening, the right words tend to flow. And then the final of the 5 steps is to, when it's your turn to respond or to speak, keep it brief, because we want the person who's upset talking. Keep it brief and respond from your heart, not your head. Because people who are hurting don't need our database, they need our humanity. All right, I'm so glad you joined us today. And by the way, as I said, if you want to learn more about me or my work, you can find that information. And if you want to learn more about this radio show, if you want to hear some of our amazing past shows, or if you want to get information about being a guest or a sponsor on this show, all of that information is on our radio website. And that web address is simply changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. And again, for any information or to contact me, or if you'd like to make an appointment to do some work with me, that is paulashaw.com. paulashaw.com. Very simple. Okay, in our next segment, we're going to be answering some emails who are writing to me now, people writing with questions about saying the right thing when you don't know what to say. We'll be right back. Okay, live stream listeners, I'm just going to get my headphones on here so that I can hear my sound engineer, Todd, who will be reading the questions to me. Hi, Todd. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little soft. I'm going to turn
How's
you
that?
up. Oh, that's better.
Better? Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, let me bring us back here. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. So glad you're here today because we're going to be talking about the economics of women with our sponsor, Cheri Blair, who's got a lot to say about that topic because her specialty is actually helping women to grow beautiful financial futures. So stay with us because in the next segment, we'll be talking to Cheri about what's going on with women and what they're earning out there and how we can make change. All right. Right now, we are going to be answering some emails from people who have contacted me about saying the right thing when they don't know what to say. Okay, Todd, what do we have?
We do have a couple emails here. The first one reads, "Hi, Paula. My dad recently died, and while I'm dealing with my own pain, I'm also trying to help my mother who's devastated. Can you give me any suggestions of helpful things to say to her and do for her? I'm sorry. Can you give some suggestions of helpful things to say and do for her? Sometimes I get worried that she's no longer wants to live because it's too painful without him. What can I do for her? What can I do to help her find the joy of life again?" And that's signed Robin.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Robin, that's a tough situation you're in because, of course, you've got your own grief and your own pain over the loss of your dad that you're dealing with. And now at the same time, you're trying to care for your mother. So the first thing I would say is don't try to put on a facade of being fine. Because one of the most healing things for your mom might be for you and she to be able to share your experiences and your pain together. Because what I often find happens with people is when they're around somebody who's suffered a loss, and in this case, a death, they tend to not want to bring it up because they don't want to make the other person feel bad. Or the other person seems to be having a good day, so they don't want to say anything to bum them out. But trust me, your mother is thinking about him all the time. She's thinking about her loss all the time. So when you bring up what you're experiencing or what you're feeling, what you're really offering her is an opportunity to be able to talk about what she's feeling. But if you don't bring it up, then they're not going to bring it up because they don't want to bum you out. They don't want to upset you because you seem to be doing okay. So don't be afraid to share what your reality is with your mom. It could be the most healing thing you do. But in addition to that, remember, isolation is a really big problem, and isolation does not help a person heal. Of course, we have to have some alone time. We have to be able to go inside and see what we're feeling and express our feelings. But isolation over the long term really doesn't help because it can lead to too much self-focus and it can exacerbate depression. So maybe you call your mom and say, "Hey, I've decided to take a yoga class today, or I'm going to go to a meditation group. Will you join me? Or what do you say we take a walk, go down to the little cafe and have some lunch?" Anything you can do to kind of get her moving and get her out of the house would be helpful. And then eventually, too, you want to encourage her to maybe join a grief group or go to some kind of an exercise class, maybe in a community center. A lot of the senior centers have great exercise classes that are totally geared toward people that age. Maybe you encourage her to paint or volunteer. Or if she doesn't have one, even get a pet, because it helps us to have a place to give, to be of service in some way. And so I think if you can encourage that, I find it's one of the most healing things for my clients, because once you start focusing on helping others, then the pain lightens up. There isn't so much self-focus, and then you start finding when you get out in the world that there are things to laugh about again, and there are things to look forward to. and things that just make life feel better. So I would say those things are really important. And also be sure you encourage her to eat well, to get sleep and get exercise. The immune system is really compromised by grief. The white blood cells are definitely compromised, so our ability to fight disease is not as great. That's why so often older people, sometimes one dies not too long after their spouse has died, or they get pneumonia because they don't have that same ability to keep the immune system strong. So be sure you encourage her. Eat right, sleep well, and move your body, even if it's just a little walk around the block or a little gardening, something that might put her in a beautiful environment where she'll feel a little bit better and different, where things seem different. Okay, I hope that helps, Robin. Really great question. Oh, and by the way, most importantly, don't forget yourself. Don't forget your own grief. You have to allow yourself your grieving. You have to nurture yourself and take care of yourself. Because remember, if you aren't well, if you aren't strong, then mom doesn't have anybody to lean on. So remember what they say on the airplane. Put the oxygen mask over your own mouth before putting it on the mouth of someone else or the face of someone else. All right. Thanks for your question, Robin. And my heart is with you.
We have one more email here, Paula. This
Okay.
one reads, Dear Paula, I know this is an old story, but I'm a woman who feels that she's being underpaid and deserves a raise, but I don't know how to approach making the request. I recently found out that a male coworker doing the same job is making more than I am. That really makes me angry, but I want to approach this in the right way. Please help me know what to do. Signed, Laura.
Okay, Laura, there's one of those situations where it's tricky to know how to say the right thing because A, you've got some emotion involved now because you found out that a man doing the same job you're doing is getting paid more. And of course, just a little later on our show, we're going to have the fighting Cheri Blair who will give us lots of good answers about what do you do when somebody doing the same job is getting paid more just because he's a man. But what I would say to you, Laura, is, first of all, wait until you're a little bit calmer before you have any kind of a conversation with your boss. And I would just use this as an opportunity to be able to reiterate to him or her, or to maybe tell them for the first time how and why you feel you are worthy of more money. But you've got to go in with the right energy. You don't want to go in with a belligerent attitude. You don't want to go in with your anger. You want to go in with a sense of power. And that comes from knowing in your core that, yes, you do deserve this. Yes, I do good work. Yes, I deserve every bit as much as this man is making. But I'm not coming to that from resentment. I'm coming to it from an inner knowing, from a core of strength. And if you come from that place, that energy will be conveyed to your boss, and he or she will start feeling it as well. And you will be much more convincing. If you go in with your anger or your resentment, that starts kind of sounding like whining. And your boss, being a leader, probably will respect you a lot more if you have your clear bullet points ready of what you want, why you feel you deserve it, and very clearly state what your case is and be succinct. We don't want to go on and on and on with a bunch of detail. That is going to be way more information than the boss needs or wants. And also, by the way, guys, when we over-explain ourselves, we lose our power. So be clear, be succinct, and be powerful. And power doesn't come from maybe sitting with your chest puffed out and looking like you're the queen without her crown on. Power comes from just knowing in your gut, from knowing in your heart who you are and what you deserve. And that's important. In fact, one of the things I want to ask Cheri in the next segment is, how does a woman come into a situation like this, really clear about her worth and her value, and what sorts of things are good to say, and maybe what sorts of things are good not to say. We are just going to go to a break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Cheri Blair, our sponsor and financial advisor, who is going to talk to us about how women can kick some butt and make things better. All right, we'll be right back. Come on in, Cheri. So, live stream listeners, Cheri is going to join us in just a moment here. Okay. There she is. Hi. The lovely Cheri Blair. Wow. Well, of course it is. You look beautiful. Hi, gorgeous.
You look pretty. Are you gonna? You have your headphones on.
Oh, thank you. No wonder I could hear myself so well.
It seems more chilly today.
Yeah. Is there any way that we can turn that thermostat up, Todd? All right, darling. Oh, that chair will be good for you, not the burgundy. I think that's perfect.
Okay.
It accents the scarf.
Okay.
What's he doing?
So
Oh, here, get that.
I guess turn it
We
up.
can get some heat.
I brought this just in case, not that because I'm just going to talk about her a little. I mean, talk about her.
Okay.
She's, in terms of women.
Well, that's how I remembered the stats about women making 80 cents to every dollar a man makes.
Right.
She is ready for a mic check.
I saw that when she was. I saw last week when Eileen was here.
Yeah.
I was watching. I just had this.
Yeah.
What? Therapy down, and my face is all swollen up.
No, you look beautiful. You're not swollen at all.
Right here, it's all swollen.
No,
Yeah,
no, only
I
you
look
know
like
that.
I gained about 10 pounds. I know I did because I look at myself. No, I did because it always shows my face. I have no cheekbone.
We're whispering because this is a part you can't hear.
It's a girlfriend thing.
It's a girlfriend thing. All right, we're going to get this lady chatting with us in just a moment. That looks beautiful.
Is this all messed up or no?
No. Oh, wait, I think you want to go over your shoulder, don't you?
Yeah, I did. Oh. I did. Something like that.
Okay.
Is he laughing at
He's
us?
waiting for you to do a mic check.
All right. Hello, Mr. Todd.
Okay.
Hi, Todd.
All right, so now you remember the
Todd.
new rules.
No.
You're either going to have that mic here or you're going to be talking to them so they can
I'll
hear
talk
you.
to them.
Okay.
How's that?
Perfect. I like it. It's good practice. And they're so nice, too. They're very friendly.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
Isn't that wonderful? This is like the last segment, if we get to that.
Oh,
Whatever.
okay.
I think, whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the second one or something.
I'm just
Yeah.
leaving you to soar, my darling. I'll just follow
Woohoo!
you. And
You don't even have your glasses. Oh, you have. Can I
I
try
do.
Oh, that pretty. Let's see what you have on. Ooh, looky there.
Oh,
This.
my Amber.
I love that.
Thank you. I thought you'd seen. I love
that-
the butterfly
Is that going
on
to bring
your
us some
flowers.
good energy?
It is. Yes, and we set a powerful intention. Actually, we set our intention today with our Facebook live
You
stream.
did? Cheers.
viewers.
Kombucha.
And agua.
Kombucha. Well,
I
that's
told you
that's
she was
just
a little
wonderful.
spitfire.
That's just
Wait till we
wonderful.
get her talking about women and money.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
So here we go.
You got enough room there? Should
Yeah,
I
and I
scoot
wanna-
over a little?
I want to make sure that. Okay.
All right. Okay, when you're ready,
these
I'll
things
bring it
colorful.
back
Okay.
and I'll do your bow,
Okay.
which lives in my heart. I don't even print it out
That's
anymore.
nice. So you said to do this? Is this what you said? To turn it that sideways?
Yeah, so, well, you're going to have if you're looking at me, you're going to have to do this.
But if I'm looking there.
But if you're looking at them, you're perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, just as long as you're close enough.
Okay. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All righty.
Okay, now I had a sheet here that had your
Bio.
contact info.
My contact.
No, I don't need your bio.
Okay.
I know who you are. All right, are you ready, darling?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this thing. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. And in studio with me right now is the lovely and beautifully colorful today, Cheri Blair. I feel very drab in your presence, my darling.
But you make up for it because look at that beautiful piece
true.
that you've got around your neck.
I sparkle my amber.
Yes.
So let me tell you a little bit about this lovely woman before we start talking about women and the economics of women. Cheri Blair has been a financial advisor for over 27 years. And what I especially love about her work is she is dedicated to helping women grow beautiful financial futures. She really puts time, energy, and money into educating women about finances so that they can make good decisions. You know, she's taught us in the past that women are living longer and they tend to have less. So this is the woman you want to see so that your financial future is just filled with fun and plenty of funds. That was pretty good, wasn't it? Fun and funds.
That's good, Paula. We like that.
So let me just say that not only is Cheri a sponsor of this show and a great financial advisor, her company is Cheri Blair Financial Services, but she's just a great human being and one of my favorite people, and I'm delighted you're here today, Cheri.
Thank you, Paula.
So let's talk
Thank
a
you,
little
Paula.
bit. Let's talk a little bit about the economics of women.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that. I'm so excited to be doing this today because it's so up for all of us. And it's a big topic and will be for quite some time. So I'm ready to get going on this. So
Okay.
from the World Economic Forum, okay, they're saying it could take 202 years, according to a 2018 Global Gender Gap Report.
200. Okay.
For the gender gap to narrow.
What?
But there's still a long ways to go before parity is reached.
Now, wait a minute. 200 and plus years before women are making equal wages with men?
That's according to a global gender report.
Are you sure that's not from the 1800s?
I know. Isn't this sad? But we're talking globally.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
see.
huge globally. That's not just our country. That's
Right.
just not the United States.
Okay,
that's
I get it.
globally.
Okay.
But still, nevertheless, we want women all over the globe, all of you, all of us, to have equality.
Absolutely.
And equality and the pay gap and so on and so forth. So, for economic equality between men and women to be achieved all over the world. Okay, this report benchmarks how countries perform across 4 dimensions, and that is economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. So
that brings to mind a lot of questions. If I could just interrupt for a second, is one of the major reasons in other countries that women are not making equal money because they haven't had the educational opportunity?
Absolutely. And we'll talk, I'll get more into that a little bit further down the road, but absolutely. So that's why you see the 202 plus or 202 years or plus 200 years.
I see.
Because
I get it now.
Education in some other countries are, for women to get the education, it's just not there for them like it is for us here. So also we know that even societies cannot afford to lose out on the skills the ideas, and the perspective of half of humanity.
That's right. We're half of humanity.
Right. So
That's
we
a great
we
point.
cannot,
That's a great point.
As a country, as a globe, we cannot lose out on half or over half of all this talent of ideas and skills and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So the progress has been slow, and this World Economic Forum defines economic participation and opportunity equality using 4 different measures as well. Labor force participation,
Mm-hmm.
wage equality for similar work, estimated earned income, and the percentage of women in management and leadership positions, and the percentages of women in professional and technical fields as well. So the forum cites factors contributing to this gap is the lack of leadership opportunities available to women.
Which makes total sense to me, because there are countries in the world where women are still believed to be subservient to men, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We're the second-class
Absolutely.
citizens.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's why they're saying 200 years, which is a long time. So across 29 countries that provide data on unpaid labor, women on average spend twice as much time as men doing work that is unpaid. So that's across 29 countries. If you can,
Unpaid?
Yes, women spend double the amount of time men do and doing work that they're not paid.
Wow.
So that, hence that. So I just wanted to start out with a couple of statistics to get us going, and that'll help.
Sure.
So because the gender gap is a result of many factors, including, as we talked about, occupational segregation, bias against working mothers, direct pay discrimination, racial biases, disabilities, access to education, which you talked about, Paula,
Mm-hmm.
and all of these, and even age comes into play.
So let me ask you a couple questions here, because in the promo for the show, I mentioned that how you and I had learned from Breaking the Money Silence from Kathleen.
Right. Yes, Kathleen Burns Kingsbury.
Yes, Kathleen Burns Kingsbury, that women make 80 cents to the dollar that men make, and for women of color, that goes much lower.
Right.
So what is that about? Is that because of education? Is that because of bias, prejudice?
Well,
What's
it
happening
has to
there?
do with, the studies have found that it has to do with several factors. Like I said, occupational segregation, biased against working mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a bias against
But
mothers
that would, the working mother thing, I get it, but that wouldn't matter if you were white or color.
Right.
But the women of color, I think the educational part makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Such as, racial bias, right? So
Mhm.
racial bias. So let me just talk about some of those numbers you just talked about, because I think that's important. So women earning as a percentage of a white male earnings. So Hispanic or Latina woman would earn 53% or 53 cents on the dollar.
Wow. 53, that's almost half as much.
That's right. And Black or African American women on an average, earn 61% or 61 cents on a dollar. Where white women, this study was actually done, or these numbers were taken in 2017, and it says white women were 77%, but now it's known as to be 80% on a dollar. Actually, I have good news for us, for those of us here in California. We're actually higher than 80% on the dollar, or 80 cents on the dollar, which is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this is a little bit different. Asian women, they earn 85%, so that means 85 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
They're actually high.
And
Education.
Education. Okay, I was going to say, what are they doing? What are we missing?
Education. American Indian, 58%, or 58 cents on the dollar, and they say Native Hawaiians, 62% or 62 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
Another interesting statistic, I think, is that in some occupations, women collectively are receiving billions less than they would with equal pay.
Whoa.
For instance, women working as physicians or surgeons are paid $19 billion less annually than if they were paid the same as man in that occupation. So I have a couple of those numbers because I think it's very interesting.
But
For
you know, I have
physicians
to
and
say,
surgeons-
physicians and surgeons, that is really dumb on the parts of people who are not choosing those women, because we all know we have smaller fingers. We can do more beautiful, what's the word? You know, like that fine work. We do it better.
Detailed work.
Detailed. That's
Detailed
the
work.
word I want.
Well, I do know that there's some men that like to knit, Paula.
That's true, but they have bigger fingers. You know, if somebody's going to be sewing up a small organ of mine, I'd rather it be somebody with smaller fingers.
Well, I'm just about, okay, if for a female physician or surgeon, they say the pay ratio is 71% to what a male makes. So, and a man, the average of what a male would earn is like little less than 250,000, according to a woman earning like 170,000 a year.
My.
So that's big. And then
I have to tell you, Cheri, that's pretty shocking to me in a profession like medicine, because everybody comes in with the same basic education. So how do you discriminate, pay a female surgeon less than a male surgeon? They're both surgeons. They both went to medical school.
well, that's a good question, and we'll talk more about that as we go along here. Okay.
All right.
So, according to a
We've only got 30 seconds left before we have to end this segment. So do you want to throw this out, and then we'll be on the edge of our seats till the next segment?
So according to a 2018 money census report by Elevest, which is a women's investing company, 83% of women said they believe that there is a gender gap. When the man said only 61 of the men agree that there is. So we'll talk more about that.
Okay, so the women do think there's a gender gap. The men,
83%.
a lot of the men are saying no, there isn't.
The men are only 61% of the men even say that there is a gender gap.
Well, I know you'll be on the edge of your seat to find out, is or isn't there a gender gap in the way people are paid, and we'll find out in just a moment after this break. We'll be back with Cheri Blair. Okay. All right, my darling, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. We are talking about women and money today, and to my shock and surprise, I have found out from my guest today and our sponsor, Cheri Blair, that women are still being paid significantly less money than men, even in professions like surgeons and doctors.
Right.
So, Cheri,
Yes.
keep
So,
going. Tell us more.
I had just talked about 83% in this one study that was done in 2018 that women believe that there's a gender gap where the man performing the same job, and only 61 of those men even agreed. So a de facto on both the right and left have said that the wage gap is just a myth. It's concocted from skewed stats that don't account for hours of work and experience earned. While women on the whole might earn less, women aren't making less than men do for the same job. That's what some say. Like I said, people that don't believe on the right or the left.
You know, I have a friend who is a researcher. And even in that profession, doing the exact same research in the same lab, she found out that a man was making significantly more money than she was.
Really?
Yes, in the exact same function. And but she set about making that right. She was bold. She felt entitled and strong. And she went in, stated her case, and they matched the money.
That's great. And I think that's what you have to do, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But much of the gender gap or the wage gap can be explained by factors like occupational segregation, which I mentioned before. And that's when work in a female-dominated field is valued less than work in a male-dominated field. And women's traditional role as unpaid caretakers and caregivers. This is according to a Pew Research Center. But there's I have some information from a director of the Institute for Women's Policy Research. She has said that She believes there's another element to man's disbelief.
And what
Ready?
is that?
Ready, Facebook? Okay. They don't want to believe they are benefiting from an unequal system, which would imply they'd been rewarded for more than just their own merits. Well.
You go, girl. You go.
Oh, well. But, getting back to, what you were talking about with the professional, such as a physician, surgeon, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But looking into this, that for many people, getting an MBA or going on and getting an advanced degree, a graduate work or a PhD or whatever, they always think of that as, a bigger paycheck or a loftier position in the workplace.
Yeah.
But if you're a woman or a person of color, an advanced degree still does not mean equal pay or for equal work. And according to a nonprofit focus on helping women advance in business, their study said, this is from the Forte Foundation. They said that a woman by the name of Michelle has found that overall men and women of all races tend to see a 63% increase in a salary after they've earned an MBA. However, when comparing these salaries within that group in this particular study,
So men and women with MBAs right?
they see their salary go up,
Mm-hmm.
but the people in this particular group, right, that were that were studied in this study, compared their salaries within the group. Okay.
Right.
And the women and people of color still received lower pay than their white male counterparts.
Wow.
Despite having an equivalent credentials.
Ooh, that just doesn't feel good.
It does.
That's like you've got an MD, I've got an MD, but you're making more money than me because you're a guy? That doesn't make sense. And you've got an MBA, I've got an MBA, but you're making more money because you're a guy.
Right,
No,
right.
that's
That's
not
why we're
okay.
talking about women economics, right?
So-
So how, as women, are we, and people of color, going to get to parity?
Yes.
How are we going to do that? We've
That's
gotta do
exactly
that.
where
So-
I wanted to go. So
yeah,
what do we do?
yeah. So, well, companies need to call managers out and make them responsible for ensuring that equitable positions are being made. And some people that looked at, these studies and said, their response was they think companies need to have more intention. Like you said, set an intention, have an intention around that,
Yeah.
as well as looking at the whole pipeline to see how women and minorities are progressing up the chain in an organization.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So they won't be lost. Okay. This study found that women and minorities that have a higher education, an MBA, or a more profession, like we talked about, for women, they actually experience less job satisfaction.
Women do?
Mm-hmm. That have these MBAs, that are physicians or are professionals with advanced degrees,
Do we know why?
They say that unhappiness is linked to the compensation of having little room for advancement in the workplace. But rather than addressing the pay gap with their boss or their manager, women often say, "I have not taken action and do not intend to." They'll say, "I just left the company."
And you know what? I think we need to pause here for a moment because this is important.
Yes, it is.
Because if we just leave, we don't fix anything.
No.
We don't change anything.
No.
And I'm as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm getting total chills because I'm thinking about the movie. I wonder if you saw the movie called On the Basis of Sex.
No, I didn't.
It's
actually.
the Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, yes.
story.
Okay. Yes.
Oh
yes,
my
yes.
God, what an
Yeah.
amazing movie.
Yes.
But there was a woman who was looked upon with a disdain by men who were in Harvard Law School. 'Cause
Right.
She was one of the
Right,
first
right,
allowed
right,
to go
right.
to Harvard Law School. She after graduating at the top of her class and helping her husband, who was ill most of the time.
Absolutely, yes.
She couldn't
Yes.
get a job.
It-
She could not get a job with a law firm because either the wives of the lawyers didn't want a woman at the office, or the men did not look at her as equally capable. So that's the bottom line. The front runners, or somebody who's willing to take a stand, and it may be you, because I know how feisty you are, somebody's going to be uncomfortable while we address the reality of this problem. And that's why I was so excited when you wanted to talk about this today, because the first thing has to be awareness, right?
Right,
People have
right,
to know
absolutely.
it's not equal out there yet, you guys. It's not equal. And if we don't fight for it, if we don't stand up, know that we're worth it. Like I was saying to the email person
I thought
earlier,
the same thing when I heard you talking.
you've got to know in your core that you deserve this and walk in from that position of strength of who you are.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right. And I think that, people have to be encouraged to do that, to say that I decided to leave my job because I wasn't paid the same as the male counterpart, and we had the exact same equivalent education or credentials or so on and so forth. Instead of standing up for yourself, says that how are we going to help collectively the women rise and people, people underprivileged people or people of color or whatever, rise up to have equality.
Mm-hmm.
So to fix the problem, we have to make sure that we do everything we can to ensure a fair chance for women and minorities to advance in your companies, in the companies. And if not, then the organizations will continue to lose diverse talent that we talked about before,
That's right? Yep.
Diverse talent. And rather than assuming the onus is on the candidate, they'll have to notice or take notice that they have a problem and they need to fix it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, I just want to say that Sally Krawcheck is the one that owns the Elevest Investing for Women.
Oh.
She's fantastic. She's phenomenal. You can find her on LinkedIn if you don't already know about her. Some of you may be investing with her, but she's wonderful. She has been a leader on Wall Street for many years, and she has tried to penetrate this inequality issue for years and years and years. And out of her own frustration, no matter how far she went up the ladder, she still found it to be everywhere she was in her professionally. So she decided that she'd start her own company.
I love that. And I think this idea, Cheri, of women either banding together to make change or walking the tough road and doing what you have to do to create that change. I mean, if we all I love your idea of working from a spirit of all of us together.
Collectively, yes.
Collectively. And I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we are out of time to talk about this today. But to all our listeners, you've heard the points that Cheri's made today. We need to be aware, and we need to fight for change. We need to walk in there and ask for that raise with poise, with power, with calm, and help make change for women all over the world. And Cheri, I thank you with all my heart for all you do to help make good changes for women all over the world, helping them grow their beautiful financial futures. And I want to thank my listeners for being with us again. We love bringing our messages to you. You can hear us on Sunday nights at 9 o'clock on AM 1170, The Answer, or 96.1 FM. And as you know, we're on every major podcast platform. And if you forget all of that, just ask Alexa. She'll find us. We're out there. All right, and we'll see you next week on Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. Thank you, Cheri.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, live stream viewers, for being with us. Cheri Blair. Oh, didn't give your contact info. Well, let me say to you all, Cheri Blair can be reached at Cheri Blair Financial Services. Is it .com?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it
.com. All right. And her numbers and her info is always on our website. So you can find out all about her there as well. All righty. We look forward to seeing y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, your contact info is